Hey everybody, I'm Marcus Hazelwood, and welcome to Clear Haze Exchange. I'm an energy engineer with over 15 years of experience in sustainability and energy efficiency consulting. Many find these topics a little complex, so I created Clear Haze Exchange to help provide clear, actionable insight. Clearing the haze, so to speak. We'll cover plenty of topics under the umbrella of energy efficiency and sustainability. Let's get into today's conversation.
Welcome, listeners, to Season 2 of Clear Haze Exchange, where we explore sustainability, energy efficiency, and the evolving relationship between people and the built environment. Today is part of a special Columbus series focused on local professionals, advocates, and innovators who are helping drive meaningful change across our region. Today's guest is Jeremy Miller, founder of GeoAlchemy Studio and creator of GeoAlchemy Codex Method. Jeremy's work combines architecture, wellness, sustainability, and healthy building design. Through passive design, high performance building science, and biosource materials, he focuses on creating homes, offices, and wellness spaces that support human health and well being. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've been excited about having this conversation. Well, first of all, we met back in, was it a couple months ago?
Earth Day. It
Earth
was a
Day.
Earth Day
Yeah, Earth
meetup with
Day.
Al. Yeah.
Yeah. We met on Earth Day, and just what you were talking about immediately resonated with me, and some of my personal experiences, and then a lot of the things I'm doing on a professional side. But it's really exciting what you're doing, so I'm looking forward to diving into it.
Yeah, me as well.
So, tell us a little bit about your background and your work here in Central Ohio. What led you to focusing on the connection between building design, human health, and wellness?
Great question. Yeah. So I grew up in Northern Ohio and came
Okay.
down to Columbus in 2005 to go to Ohio State. So came to Central Ohio, I guess 21 years ago,
Wow.
and went to Ohio State, studied architecture,
Uh-huh.
architecture school, Milton School of Architecture. I think it was like a year or two old when I came. So it was all
Wow.
pretty fresh and new.
Wow.
And so that was kind of the start of my journey in Columbus for sure. But I never really fully connected with like the academic approach. Something about it I knew just wasn't exactly like my path. I had like, some good times in school. I also left a little frustrated and a little bit confused. I graduated in 2009, which was a recession, and I remember at the time they were saying, "Yeah, I went to the career fair in the school and nobody was hiring.
Yeah.
Things were down." And they said, "We're just recommending people go to grad school and do that right now because it's not a good job time for work on the market." And for some reason, that didn't make sense to me. I was like, wait a minute, there's no jobs. So you want me to go spend more money on school? I don't know. I don't think that's the way to do it for me. And so I ended up traveling around a bit and I lived in Mexico for 5 months, which was an amazing experience. And played in a band that summer up by
Nice.
Port Clinton and kind of worked some odd jobs. Landed back in Columbus and I thought,
Would you play in the band?
I'm a drummer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've been
Cool.
playing drums my whole life. So,
Cool.
little side note, when I was really young, my mom had, like 2, 3 years old, my mom has pictures of me sitting around with the pots and pans
Yeah.
banging on the kitchen floor. And then, of course, I love it. I love music. And so I thought, wait a minute, like I want to work for a builder. I want to learn like how do you actually put buildings together? Like what are the ways that we build in the culture and how does something actually materialize? How do you actually create a real project? And
Yeah.
so I met a friend of mine and he was starting his own company. It's called Compton Construction, and I
Mm.
was the second employee, and so I ended up being there for about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. So
And
got your
so,
hands-on experience there.
yeah, started
So
off in the
valuable.
field, like I like to say, sweeping floors and unlocking doors. Still
Mhm.
didn't know what I was doing, but got to
Yeah.
learn a lot on the job site. And then ended up moving into the pre-construction department, learning about estimating, bidding, all the planning in between the design process and the build.
Yeah.
And then eventually started working on design projects. It was a design build
Mm.
approach. And so started learning about building permits and technical construction drawings
Yeah.
and just kind of learning from experience of how buildings actually come together.
Yeah.
Um,
That's good.
but during my time there as well, I started having some health issues. During that time, I also had moved down to a neighborhood called Franklinton here in Columbus
Mhm.
and worked with a friend to renovate an old house. And I remember during the course of that process, I started having all kind of weird health issues. Started severe digestive issues, brain fog, fatigue, feeling depressed and just unwell, low energy levels. And, I think there were multiple things going on, but reflecting back now, that was the start of what became some pretty severe chronic health conditions for me
Yeah.
and had very severe digestive issues, very severe brain fog. I used to have this thing that I call like a IQ drop where literally sometimes this thing would just happen and my whole being would be in this fog and I could
Yeah.
barely form a sentence and I'd be looking
Really?
around like, what happened? I'd feel
Wow.
so terribly unwell.
Wow.
Um, and this coincided with me in the emergency room a couple times. There were times I'd wake up and my entire face would be numb. I couldn't
Wow.
move my arms. I had no idea what was going on.
Mm.
And this became some motivation for me to become self-employed
Yeah.
because I wasn't well enough to like go into an office and I'd go in there and breathe in the air. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't think straight in here. I
Yeah.
could barely sit up straight. Like I'm
Mm.
exhausted. What's going on? And so
Wow.
uh, the start of my entrepreneurial journey was okay, if I could work from home, I could be sick while I'm working.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the original motivation, which is kind of funny
Wow.
reflecting back on it. But
Yeah.
that was kind of where things started for me. And then I spent years trying to understand what was going on, traditional medical route, and then alternative, just voraciously researching, listening to podcasts, reading books,
Yeah.
being very radical with nutrition, making all my own bone broths. I'm like, okay, something's
Mm.
wrong with my gut. I gotta
Yeah.
heal the
Yeah.
gut. I'm gonna make bone broths and my own homemade sour cream and
Yeah.
sauerkraut and all these things,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
while getting sicker and sicker and not knowing why. Cause I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the right things with nutrition. I'm going outside. I'm getting exercise. I'm trying to get good sleep. I'm not partying. I'm not,
Yeah.
going out and drinking and doing all that anymore. Did that when I was
Yeah.
younger, but by this time I didn't. Wasn't finding any answers,
Mm.
and it was very frustrating and confusing and really challenging.
Mm. Can imagine.
But eventually, I came around to finding this guy, Dr. Pompa, and I found his website, listening to podcasts,
Yeah.
and following along. He was interviewing a woman whose nutrition protocol I was studying. This woman, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride,
Yeah.
and she had come up with the GAPS diet, which is gut and psychology syndrome, and this
Mm.
relationship between these things I was experiencing, this GI distress and this mental fog and fatigue and all these symptoms that I was having. And he was interviewing her, and I watched it to try to understand more. Maybe there was something I was missing.
Yeah.
And in the process, I was like, well, who's this? Who's this Dr. Pompa guy?
Yeah.
And then following his work and reading his story, I was like, wait a minute, this guy's story sounds a whole lot like mine.
Mm.
And ended up reaching out to him. At this point, again, self-employed. I was working with, an architecture mentor, and we were working on some projects. And I built my first house. I designed and built a house. Well, the company we built it, but I designed it, and we built a house in Franklinton. And so I had some level of what on the outside looked like success, but inside I felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
And so I reach out to the Dr. Pompa website and I get a call back from him personally a couple days later. And
Yeah.
it was a plea for help email that really worked. And that was the start of an experience that was really very transformative for me because I started learning about mold. I started learning about heavy metals and other environmental toxins
Mm.
and how to detoxify the body and tap into fasting and natural healing
Yeah.
modalities. But what that really opened up in me, one was this deep understanding of the environment from a health and wellness perspective
Mhm.
and the relationship between our health and the spaces that we occupy.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's really good. It kind of brings us back to this sense that we get so comfortable assuming that the environments that we're in, especially really in the US, where you just assume it's safe and you assume that this is okay, this is healthy, and this is all I know. So from your story, it makes me think about how much we don't think about, because you led to the point of you were looking at your internal health and what you were putting in your body, but the air you were breathing in from the environment had a larger influence. And that's a critical piece of knowledge. And to have a passion to understand that, you kind of had to have experience that kind of pushed you into it too. So that's really good. So now that we understand where your experience and passion comes from, you started building a branded product. So the Codex Home is related to passive design and natural spaces, but also healthy internal environments. So what is the Codex Home project?
Yeah. So the Codex Home and the GeoAlchemy Codex Method is a design system that really over the past 4 to 5 years that I've developed that is meant to be a solution to this problem or this issue of the environment making people sick.
Yeah.
And the way we design our homes and offices and all the technology that's been developed in them and things that have happened, I think, over the course of building codes evolving and energy efficiency and air tightness and air conditioning and all this amazing change that's happened over the last 125 years of the way that we design and build, specifically here in the United States, that's making people sick. The Codex method is the opposite. It's homes designed to heal, not harm.
Mm.
And this has been, again, from experience. I did the whole detox. I did the detoxing. I did 5 day water fasts. I did all these things, and my body came back to life. I traveled in a van and went
Yeah.
to Miami and spent time on the beach, and then went to the desert and went to all these
Yeah.
different places. Lived in Austin for a year and a half. Connected with an amazing group that was like plant medicine, if you're familiar with that whole world, and
Yeah.
continued to understand the link between the physical, the mental, and the emotional again through personal experience.
Yeah.
You hear these concepts of everything is energy, and
Yeah.
quantum physicists are showing us that look, it's all vibrating energy. It's all the
Yeah.
same stuff, and it's just moving in different geometric patterns and
Yeah.
at different frequencies of oscillation. And
Mm.
I'm no expert in that, but I find it really intriguing. But
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
plants gave me this really visceral experience of like, I get it. I could feel it.
Yeah.
I feel the relationship in my physical body between that emotional or mental thought that I just had, or that
Yeah.
feeling in my heart, and the relationship between the space that I'm in and the energy that I'm experiencing in my physical body, how this translates to my wellness.
Yeah.
And that was a next big part of my journey, which led me to connecting with a great group from that community and went on a trip to Peru, which
Mm.
led me to living in Peru for a year and a half
Wow.
and living in Adobe homes. And at the time, I was
Yeah.
very scared to do it
Yeah.
because I had my detox supplements, I had my infrared sauna, I had the cold plunge. My friend Kim, she owns Ebb and Float here in Columbus, and I had a membership there, and I was going all the time. Float therapy, all these Whole Foods, organic groceries,
Yeah.
all of these different tools that I thought were keeping me healthy.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I going to go to another country? I'm not going to have any of these things. Oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
going to get sick again.
Yeah.
But the opposite happened. I
Huh.
was living in this Adobe home, grounded, low EMF environment, non toxic materials. They didn't even have HVAC
Yeah.
systems because it was a temperate climate with a wet and dry season between like
Mm.
low 30s and probably about 70 all year round. And the sun warmed up the Adobe and kept it warm at night. And sure, if you got a little cold, you can put a fire on or get an extra warm blanket. But
Yeah.
I realized the environment that I was living in was actually improving my health and well being. I
Wow.
was getting better sleep. I was feeling more mentally clear, nervous system more regulated, more
Yeah.
calm. All this led to more energy, more creativity, more zest, more passion. And I was
Mm.
like, I'm going to learn how to take this experience that I'm having in Peru and translate it into a design system with like the conventions and tools we have here back where I'm from, United States, Ohio specifically. And that's what became the Codex Home. And so also in that time in Peru, I started studying ancient architecture more and going to Machu Picchu and right in the backyard in the valley, sun temples, water temples, moon temples, and all these interesting alignments and the
Yeah.
the precise, very intentional placement of the structures on the earth, the stone, the materials that they use. And so for me, as I started translating my experience into this design system and started learning about passive building science and uh, what they a lot of times what I saw was like it provides a comfortable environment. For me, I see it as providing a really healthy environment.
Yeah.
And then you learn about building biology and non-toxic materials. And I was like, wait a minute, like there is a way with the conventions and
Yeah.
the tools and the materials that we have access to here and the building codes that we have here to create a much healthier built environment. And then the geometry itself,
Yeah.
what I call harmonic geometry or sacred geometry. So the Codex Home includes harmonic geometry, which includes fractal geometry, biological building science, so passive building science, and then building biology, and then a big focus, which this is kind of included in building biology, but for me it's really important, non-toxic biosourced materials.
Mm.
And so those three things together are what creates a Codex Home.
Mm.
And they're all designed with a specific intention and process designed for your home or your office or your wellness center to become a technology
Mm.
for your health and well-being, a space where you could truly thrive.
Wow. Wow. So the combination of geometry and building materials I really like the example you use it after pursuing whole foods, doing all the exercise. Oh, you're eating healthy, but it's interesting from your experience in Peru, help you realize that wow, it's not all those things. I love that. So how does the Codex encourage health and well being inside of that space?
Yeah, many different ways. So as my process has developed, it starts with a pretty comprehensive questionnaire and diagnostic process
Okay.
to open up the possibility that your home could be part of your wellness strategy.
Mm,
So asking questions, and some of the foundational questions: what's your budget? What's your timeline? Who's
yeah,
this for? Is it for you? Is it for your family? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing it now? What's your
yeah,
vision? What's your deeper why? Like, what does your
yeah,
heart tell you? Like, why are you? Because to design and build a home, it's no small task. There's lots of
yeah,
decisions to be made. It's a large investment. It's a large commitment of time.
yeah,
So when you're doing this, you have an incredible opportunity for legacy, for creating infrastructure for your family and for yourself. And then asking questions, what are your emotional health goals? What are your mental health goals? What are your spiritual health goals? What are your
yeah,
physical health goals?
yeah,
And in that process, opening up the possibility that, wait a minute, my home could support me in my mental health.
yeah,
My home can support me in my spiritual well being. How
yeah,
would it do that? And then
yeah,
entering this discovery process to explore that. And on a technical level, there's a couple foundational ways that are really, really important. Air. Every breath we take, doesn't matter if you're exercising,
yeah,
it doesn't matter if you're sleeping,
yeah,
doesn't matter if you're eating potato chips on the couch.
yeah,
You're breathing in your home, you're breathing in the air of your home,
yeah,
you're being in your home.
yeah,
And so, utilizing biosourced materials like lime plaster and magnesium oxide board, which will create an environment that's going to prohibit mold growth. And then the passive building system includes energy recovery ventilation. So, with good filtration, you could actually create healthier indoor air inside your home than it is outside with like MERV 13 or
yeah,
plus filtration. And it goes up from there with some of the UV technologies and standalone units in your home as well. But providing indoor air is foundational.
yeah,
The materials matter, the wall assembly matters, the mechanical equipment matters, the orientation where the winds are coming, all that factors into that. And I looked at a study from Harvard where they showed your investment in quality ventilation alone
mhm,
in office environments gives you 100 times return on your investment in worker productivity for the cost that it takes to add this.
yeah,
And it's also part of a very efficient system. It's like it's originated in Germany, and it's this
yeah,
very precise engineered. It's a very rigorous process. So there's a lot of quality control to ensure you get that indoor air quality, but that's foundational. And then the geometry itself, using fractal based geometry patterns like the golden ratio and other systems that have self similarity at scale.
mhm,
There have been researchers. There's a fella, I think he was out of the University of Oregon, that did a bunch of research. And you don't even have to be, you could even put these like paintings in your room. But when you design the proportions of the room to all be uh, interrelated and harmonic, is the term that I use for it, and create a level of fractalization in the geometry of the layout and the position of the room, the length to width ratio, the width to height, where the placement of the windows and the doors,
mhm,
fractal based geometries of a certain precision are shown to reduce stress by up to 60%. So, and it's not just like you're not going to get stressed, but if you're doing something stressful, like the example of the study was like you're trying to solve a complex math problem, and it activates this level of physiological stress in the body because you're working and investing energy and and in this challenge or this issue. But the fractal based design, if you're in a space designed with that, or even if you have artwork or what I call geometric glyphs in the space, like think of the hieroglyphs of the Egyptian architecture,
yeah,
or
yeah,
stuff you see in the Mayan architecture, it'll reduce and help you recover from stress by 44 to 60%. This is
mm,
huge. This is a huge benefit. And
mm,
then the water quality,
yeah,
the water filtration systems, and then protection from electromagnetic frequencies.
yeah,
There is a building biologist that I started consulting with, Brian Hoyer from Shielding Shop. They could do everything from support with everything from mapping out Earth radiation, geophysical anomalies, and
uh-huh,
geomagnetic stress, which they've shown in European countries to, if you're sleeping in an area of high geopathic stress,
yeah,
it can increase rates of cancer by up to 20%,
wow,
because these areas are beneficial for temples if you're staying there for a short amount of time. But if you're
right,
sleeping there, it actually has the hormetic response flips and it becomes a negative
mm,
for your health and well being, and it could lead to cancer.
Yeah.
And then also the artificial frequencies that we've created with the wiring, with the 5G, with the radio frequencies. So there's ways to shield your body from all these technologies
Mm,
or all these frequencies because they've been shown to cause cellular inflammation.
mm,
And if your cells are inflamed, like
yeah.
this chronic inflammation can lead to all sorts of health issues. So those are a few, just the air quality, the water quality, and the electromagnetic frequencies, and then the actual energy of space itself.
Wow. That's good. That's a lot packed into, just a single thought. I mean, it's clear that your passion enabled you to learn these things and just grasp onto them, and you talk about them so elegantly. It's really impressive. But it makes sense though. All these things that we get so used to living with, when you talk about the inflammation, they're related to our environments. I've even experienced it. My wife has experienced environmental impacts.
Yeah, we were just
Why
talking about that.
yeah, we were just
Yeah.
talking about it before the interview.
Yeah.
Why is it that that not a lot of people realize the impact of the environment? Why is it that there's not much of a focus on the realities that you mentioned?
Well, I think it's a very deep question.
Yeah,
That's a very deep question, and I've thought about it a lot. I've pondered this quite a bit because like you said, there was a lot I just packed into that one thought,
yeah,
that last question. And how would I frame this best? Well, one, I think we've forgotten that our value is we're human beings,
yeah,
and we've been programmed to think our value comes from what we do, not who we are.
mm,
And this is one of the greatest sleight of hands that keeps us trapped in patterns of unwellness and not living our full potential.
yeah,
And all these things that I'm talking about, air quality, water quality, the energy of space, fractality, nature, um, the electromagnetic frequencies, the artificial environment that we've created,
yeah,
this is pretty new. It's maybe not so in our intuition. Like, think of America. Well, we're in the year 250
yeah,
of the year of the country. So modern building codes, modern building methods, chemicals, all these things that have been created in the past century, it's pretty new. Even 100 years ago, I think the majority of the buildings around here are probably built out of brick. What is brick? It's clay, it's earth, it's
yeah,
mud. It's much more natural. And those brick walls are designed to dry out differently and they weren't so airtight. And so, if water did get inside, it could, you had a fire, you didn't have the forced air furnace, so you didn't have
yeah,
all the ductwork to get mold and condensation. And you just had a fire that was going to dry everything out and it could evaporate through the brick wall.
yeah,
The way we build now, in the response to energy codes and the energy crisis, and then before you know, we've got air conditioning, and then we've got an energy crisis, and we need insulation. And I think collectively, humanity has been trying to figure out how to survive in this environment as the population has grown. And what we've done is slowly and slowly disconnected ourselves from nature because if there was one common theme between all those things that I talked about, the energy of the space, the fractality, the air quality, the water quality, the radiation and the subtle energy and the electromagnetic fields, what are they? They're all things that are interference patterns that are not out there when you go out into the woods or you go out into the mountains or you're in the natural landscape.
yeah,
So the common thread is we have disconnected ourselves from nature,
mm,
which is the source of our vitality.
yeah,
And we've put ourselves in extreme patterns of interference on every dimension,
yeah,
every breath we take, everything we put into our body, every everything we see with our eyes, the subtle energy.
yeah.
We've completely disconnected ourselves from nature and wonder why we don't feel well. It's
And
because guess
studies
what?
show that we spend 90% of our time indoors,
Yes,
buildings.
and our source of vitality is our connection to nature.
Yeah.
Where does the water come from? Where does the food come from? Where does the air get cleaned? Where
It
does the
makes me
oxygen come from?
And it makes me think about hospitals, why they usually have those kind of interior spaces for people to look at nature to kind of help their well-being. So when
Yes.
you see that kind of plants in the middle of a hospital or at least nice green spaces, it's the reason for it is to help these sick people feel better. But that simple concept just shows how just having what do you call it? Uh, the
Biophilic.
biophilic
Biophilic design.
design
Yeah.
inside that's heavy in hospitals and stuff because it helps with their well-being. So yeah, like it makes so much sense. There's so many. I think about the flame retardants they put in couches. So like the things that we're putting in, and even I think about pajamas. At one point, they were putting flame retardants in babies' pajamas, and I think a study showed after that baby wore those pajamas, they found those chemicals in the baby's urine the next day. So we're constantly taking in chemicals, whether I mean, they've taken flame retardants out of couches now. A lot of what we see as luxuries and conveniences, even stain repellents, water repellent, all these different things that we use to have, more luxurious experience, have the opposite effect is what learning from my own experience, and from what you're saying, it just kind of further confirms that reality.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we wonder why we're depressed and feeling
Yeah,
unwell and have headaches and are
yeah,
exhausted and,
yeah,
can't think straight.
yeah,
Well, I try to go out 2 hours in the woods every day, and get some hike and get, fresh air, and I sit outside and watch the morning sun come up and do some deep breathing and, feel the sun and on my face and let that light
yeah,
enter my eyes, and, for me, the connection to nature is everything, and that's what sums it all up.
yeah,
If we've disconnected ourselves with these artificial technologies, all those products that you're talking about. I was in California at the end of March going to a group of alternative, like chiropractors, functional medicine, integrative medicine doctors, to connect with a guy's name was Dr. Fab Mancini. And out there, the resort we were staying at had a plaque on the wall. This building contains materials known to cause cancer in California. Oh, that's
uh,
good.
yeah,
Why'd we do that?
yeah,
Well, I think we probably didn't know at the time, and people were probably trying to do the best that they could.
yeah,
But now we've created a situation, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
that was not good.
yeah.
Okay,
It's interesting because I think even the industry is progressing. So with LEED Green Building, USGBC, they are trying to get manufacturers to vet what's in their materials. So there's different industry certifications that are trying to push being more transparent about materials, and the transparency forces manufacturers to revisit what they're putting in there. I know a big one is plastics. Oh, there's no BPA. Okay, well, what are they putting in next then? So what's what's next? What's the next thing to kind of make it okay? That's gone.
yeah,
I'm already the lab rat that has used those bottles for 10 plus years of my life, and so now they're doing a new one. That's great. So so with
think about this: lead paint,
yeah,
asbestos,
yeah,
formaldehyde.
yeah,
Those are three. It's pretty well accepted that those are not good for you,
yep,
right?
yep,
How many chemicals are in the built environment now?
yeah,
300, 3,000? I
yeah,
don't know. It's got to be a lot, but a lot more than those three.
yeah,
And I bet you in however many years, whether it's 5, 10, or 100, people are going to start remediating all these other chemicals out of the environment. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was mentioning some of my time when I was at working at Harvard. I was working with some of the researchers, and or at least learning from some of them, and they were talking about the chemicals. They were talking about 80,000 plus chemicals that aren't regulated.
Wow.
They really regulate what goes into your mouth and to your body, but a lot of the stuff that's not regulated, they can put whatever they want into the materials that are in our environment. And so that kind of was the first red flag for me in understanding that, wow, all this stuff out here is not regulated. So I'm trusting that this product that I'm buying and taking into my home is safe, but it's made with chemicals that over time can impact my health. So
Yeah.
realization that that's a big part of being aware, being educated about this, and that's what I love about this podcast is being able to learn from people like yourself that have these experiences, but also have the knowledge to kind of pivot in those positions. So you've lived in a Codex tiny home,
Living in a tiny home right now. Yeah.
yeah.
It's not my
So tell us
Codex one
about
yet,
that.
but it's coming up. Those are coming soon.
Cool, cool. So how is that? So what is how does the passive I know you didn't explain this because you first start by explaining passive house design, the fire certification, and that air aspect, and then get into the tiny home that you live in.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, completed last year a FIA zero certified project.
Yeah.
So net zero certified, and that was in combination with a really great team, my friend Blake Compton and Nick Stevens, and then Stephen Rhodes, who was our certified passive house consultant. And it's a very rigorous and detailed way to build and design. It's pretty very neat.
Yeah.
And the core components of that, as I understand them, are super insulation,
Mhm.
airtight construction, continuous ventilation, high performance windows and doors, and then shading strategies, and all electric. So with solar, it's designed to reduce the power load. And then with solar, it could be net zero, which means it's engineered to, over the course of the year, it's in the city, so it's connected to the grid. It's not off grid, but it's designed to be net zero energy consumption. So some months when it's cloudy, you might be buying from the grid.
Yeah.
We get those really beautiful sunny Septembers, you're making bank, right?
Yeah.
And so over the course of the year, it's designed to be net zero. Which is amazing. And it comes from an engineered building system that is really high performance. And each one of those pieces really works together. And each one of those pieces also have health benefits, like the continuous installation and the super installation. If you're doing, because there's different ways to do it. We did it with stud construction and then continuous installation on the outside of the walls and the roof,
Mhm.
insulated crawl space. And that prevents thermal bridging, which protects against mold and condensation issues, which is amazing. The ventilation, we've talked about that for the air quality. It's amazing. Our unit, I believe, has the MERV 13 filtration on it, which is pretty great standard. Above that, you start to get into HEPA levels of filtration,
Yeah.
and the high performance windows and doors also prevent condensation and energy loss. And it's very neat, and it's very, comprehensive, and there's also a third-party rater who comes and inspects the project at different areas in the field to ensure the building envelope is performing as designed. Because if you think about building code, that's essentially the minimum legal requirements you can do for a house,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
To do building code, and passive is definitely, far above and beyond that and exceeding code requirements, not just for energy efficiency, but air quality and
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other metrics. I think there was a spreadsheet of that our consultant had to go through some 300 items, and we had like a 12-hour inspection with the
Wow.
team just for the final inspection. On a small home, it's 520 square feet plus 130 square foot loft,
Wow.
and so it's very rigorous
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
detailed, and a little bit more like maybe building a car than a house,
Yeah.
but it's incredible. And
Yeah.
if you can do it, it's the way to go because
Yeah.
operationally you're going to save a lot of money,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And it's also way more comfortable and healthy.
Yeah.
And what I learned in the process too, combined with the higher quality materials, is this it's more of an investment, right?
Mhm.
If maybe in the neighborhood you're at, the comps aren't there to get the loan for this. Maybe you have to put in more of your own personal funds to do this. And
Yeah.
so it's not as attainable to the masses as a conventional built home, which is tough. And I
Yeah.
feel for that because, like, I want to build a healthier home,
Yeah.
but maybe I can't build that kind of healthy
Yeah.
home because I don't have the extra money right now. And so, one of the things that I saw is like, how would I make this more accessible? Which is where I've launched the Codex Tiny Homes in combination with my friends over at Great Lakes Tiny Home Amish shop in
Uh-huh.
Baltic, Ohio, about an hour and a half, 2 hours from here. They've been building tiny homes in Ohio for I think about 5 years. Company I think's been around since 2016, and they're just great.
Yeah.
They're really great, and we're launching the line of Codex Tiny Homes. So they're tiny homes on wheels, RVIA certified, and so much more accessible, much lower price point. In like the 160, 170 to like 200,000 range. You can get
Uh-huh.
your own tiny homes on wheels, and then the site work is way less because you
Yeah.
can have a gravel pad and RV style hookup. So
Uh-huh.
they're also hard to get code wise, zoning wise in the city. A lot of city zoning won't allow on wheels, but a lot of more rural municipalities it's a lot easier.
Mm.
So it also gets you closer out into nature, which
Yeah.
again, as we've talked, the nature is that source of health and wellness and vitality.
Yeah.
But they have the whole system. They're super insulated. They're continuously ventilated, high performance building materials, windows, doors, wool insulation, magnesium oxide board, Roma Bio mineral silica paints that are going to be breathable, and they're hydroscopic, which means that they're going to work with the indoor moisture of the air in a really healthy way instead of forming condensation that leads to mold.
Mm.
And they have everything. It's everything in just a
Wow.
smaller footprint, harmonic geometry.
Uh-huh.
They're beautiful, and I'll have one of them probably by early October to start taking on the road. The idea is to take it to different tiny home communities and just really show people firsthand
Yeah.
that this is what we're talking about, so they can walk in and feel the difference in the air and the difference in the smell.
Yeah.
So I'll share this. When the Codex home in October was complete, we had a really great 2 days of events, and I brought through people on the one day in small groups so they could experience it in a real intimate way. And one of the guys that came through, a new friend of mine, is a home builder that works for one of the custom home building companies here in Columbus.
Uh-huh.
And he walks in, he's like, "How
Yeah.
long ago did you finish this?" And I said, "Well, it's yesterday." It was like right on the line. And he said, "Oh man, why doesn't it smell like chemicals?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Exactly,
Yeah.
because there's not. It's not built
Wow.
with all this chemical." He's like, "Man, I sell new homes all day and I can't stand them. Like they
Yeah.
just smell like chemicals and
Yeah.
toxic." I was like, "Yeah, he's done." So the Codex homes have all that. And the Codex tiny homes, it's all there, just in a smaller, more accessible package.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
And we build them inside, so they're
Yeah.
not out in the elements and the rain, which
Yeah.
again could cause issues with like mold and the
Yeah.
building envelope over time. They're built inside in a
Yeah.
controlled facility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
and they're awesome.
Well, I'm gonna have to experience that as well. I'm gonna have to connect with you on touring one soon.
We'll bring it by.
Yeah.
Maybe before we head out of town, we'll bring it by here and we can record a podcast in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Would love to.
Yeah.
So before your mold recovery experience, going back to your story of your personal story, when was it that you connected your health with the building when you were going through all those challenges? Was it your experience when you went to Peru? Is that when you kind of realized it? When did you kind of pinpoint that? Oh, it's the environment, that aha moment.
That's when it really all landed
Yeah,
because it was so profound.
yeah,
The strength, the vitality, the mental clarity, the quality of my sleep. Um, yeah, that's when it all really hit home for me.
yeah, yeah. So from that experience, kind of is what birthed that desire. Like this has to be available and accessible to people, because not everybody's going to have the same experience as you, but the results of continuous and healthy lifestyle can pivot out of what we're used to. Because you're right, whether it's an older home or a newer home, you're still not going to have that same access to sustainable materials. And this gets me to the next point of health and well-being. A lot of certifications out there. And on the commercial side, there's programs where there's the biophilic design, access to healthy food, the air filtration, all the things that you've mentioned. What certifications are the most effective in encouraging things to go this direction?
Well, one of the things I was really impressed with the FIA certification is the quality control process.
Mm.
So I'm a big fan of that because you have the lead designer like myself, you have a certified passive house consultant, you have FIAs themselves reviewing all your details, and then you also have a third party rater inspector that's coming out to like really commission the home, and that's the one that I have the most experience with.
Mm.
Recently someone is connecting me with like the Delos certification as well. I'm just
Mm.
starting to learn about that one. But honestly, just developing this approach that integrates passive building science and building biology and the harmonic geometry that I call the GeoAlchemy Codex Method.
Yeah.
I've been more focused on developing and refining that. So I haven't done a lot of study of some of the other certifications that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So is your codex method more on the residential side with tiny homes, or are you expanding into the commercial to make that a certification that's open to both residential and commercial?
Yeah. So I'm in the process of still getting my own architectural registration. So
Uh-huh.
working towards doing that and work with different registered architects and came from a commercial construction background. And I really see for the office environment and like the wellness center environment as the areas that I'm looking to focus on. Spoke with a number of different chiropractors and functional medicine doctors that are interested in this approach, and have connected with Dr. Jerry Curatola,
Mm.
who's a biological dentistry
Yeah.
master. He was one of the fathers of biological dentistry in the U.S. He really helped me on my health journey. I have these things called cavitations. That's another story. That was wild, but he's interested in applying this to his future health centers, and so yeah, the idea is for GeoAlchemy and the method to function as the lead design and vision for the outcome, and then be able to collaborate with other project team members, architects, engineers to implement this vision and scale this vision to office environments, wellness environments, medical environments. But right now we're also focused on, yeah, launching the tiny homes and site built custom homes.
Yeah.
And, but I've got a couple things on the hopper. I was going after a project, a wellness center in a skyscraper on Wall Street.
Yeah.
I haven't heard if that one's moving forward yet. But it'd be, it'd be a fun jump to start playing in that space as well.
Yeah. So would that be more of a tenant fit out or okay. Tenant fit
Yeah,
out.
yeah, but also I talked with Dr. Jerry about this vision of almost building like temple complexes,
Yeah.
areas with almost like agrohood. Have you heard of the concept of the agrohood,
Uh-uh.
agricultural neighborhood where you
Yeah, where you come in and grow your own,
regenerative
community.
farming
Yeah.
is part of the housing. So
Yeah.
instead of grass that you spray with chemicals or non-native plants, you're actually planting edible food and integrating soil restoration into the neighborhood. And so you got healthier air and doing something like that, but for a wellness complex where you have almost these series of like temples
Yeah.
where you come in for different healing and modality, whether it's biological dentistry or vitalistic chiropractic and, holistic nutrition and mindfulness and wellness. Everything's like integrated. And it's almost like because this is, as I've studied, this is what like the Nile was. It was an initiatic path where
Mhm.
you went through these different spaces, each designed to calibrate a different aspect of your being, and then by the end of it, you've gone on your journey, and then you
Yeah.
could be a mature person in society and share
Yeah.
your wisdom and lead, and
Yeah.
and take that experience and pay it forward. And so that's the long term vision where people could come and stay and you know work through all these different aspects of your being, restoring health and vitality, remembering the
Yeah.
truth of who we truly are, and it'd be surrounded by all the good stuff. It'd be
Yeah.
like its own little ecosystem.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I was telling you in my backyard, an area where I had that similar thought where if there could be a structure to enjoy nature, there's a pond next to the property next to me, and I keep envisioning be back there. And right now, it's just you taking the kids out with a tent. But there's something about being able to be out in the environment and in the woods. We went camping in Maine one year. Went to Cadillac Mountain. We pitched a tent right in the woods and put the hammock out, and the trees were just massive. You're just looking straight up at the canopies. And there's just something about just laying there in the morning that just makes you feel like this is just, I feel like I'm, laying on a cloud. Of course, the hammock, but you're just looking at trees and this is the air. You're not smelling anything that's bothering you. It's just nature. So I love that. I'm certainly going to see how we can make that happen with you bringing that the Codex home around. At any rate, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, one thing I did want to mention was how has COVID changed how people think about the indoor environment? It was back in 2020, things have pivoted, but how has that changed the indoor environment? I would assume it helps people think about it more.
I think so. Yeah, I took a couple of trips to New York City over the past 6 to 9 months. I was there in like October, then back again in February, meeting with a developer. And what I noticed in the advertising is particularly this one group was looking at acquiring a skyscraper on Wall Street that used to be, it was, I think it was built for Chase Bank, and then it was like the head of Deutsche Bank, and then they were converting it into mixed use. So they were going to do some, commercial retail, but also residential rental, residential condos for sale, and then also the wellness center, like at the top.
Yeah.
And there was a lot around MERV 15 filtration, right? So people talking about the filtration of the air quality inside the building, and that was like a key for one of the improvements that they were making to prepare the building for the sale, and that this upgrade had been made. And so I think people got more sensitive to indoor air quality.
Mhm.
That was a big thing that I saw, and it seemed to be not just that building, but other buildings as well, where people were really paying attention to that. And then I think integrating wellness into the building to make it an attractive place where you want to go. What if you created an office where you're like, oh my gosh, I actually feel better here than I do at home?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what got me out of my gig with the firm that I was working with and got me to be self employed. I'm like, I literally can't come into this office anymore. I feel so terrible. I can't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But what if it was the opposite, that you went there and you felt good? Whoa, that's an amazing
Yeah.
way to, create team and community and
Yeah.
collaboration. And so I've
Yeah.
seen some of that too, and integrating the wellness facilities. But
Yeah.
what I've seen missed was the actual building system itself, because if you're under fluorescent lights and you don't have fresh air and
Yeah.
you're breathing in toxic materials while you're at that wellness center or getting your smoothie,
Yeah.
you're still going to be you're climbing uphill.
Yeah. Jeez. And that's the most expensive um ex for a business and an organization, their biggest expense is employees. And so if you think about if you have an office with 20, 25 employees, their biggest expense is paying their salaries. And to your point, if people are feeling good in the office and desiring to come in there and they can think better, they can feel better, how do you quantify what that value is? And I think that's where you're getting at with this. How would you even approach the value that this could bring to someone who doesn't understand this?
You know, that's a great question. And I think it'd be really fun to start a long term study, like
Yeah,
a really long term, because a lot of this stuff, from what I learned from Dr. Pampa and the patients that he sees, turns to chronic health conditions, right? So, how do you put a value on better immune function? So, you have to be in the hospital less and you're using your
yeah,
insurance less and you could work more effectively. And so maybe you work an hour less, but you actually get twice as much done.
yeah,
Gosh, I'm not quite sure. That'd probably be a better question for my girlfriend. She has that type of a brain.
yeah,
I would love to ask her that, but I think for me, it's getting people to commit to like some sort of long term study would be really exciting because I think that's where these chronic rather than acute health conditions you'd
yeah,
really see the value. Like a year and a half improved for me. I was there almost a year and a half, and like wow, the difference, the energy that I came back with.
yeah,
I mean, I was a
yeah,
different person when I came back.
yeah,
Being able to do a long-term study and look at a lot of different biomarkers, use like worker productivity. I'm sure they've got ways to quantify that, but also using some advanced like biometric technology to
yeah.
really look at the physiology of the body, and um, that'd be really interesting.
Because of course, in the U.S., the dollars are what really moves a lot of things. There's government influence from a regulatory standpoint on the East Coast, where I worked a lot. There's Local Law 97 in New York, where they're pushing carbon tax for buildings that aren't performing energy wise. And so that's pushing building owners to be efficient with the functionality of their spaces. So there's a regulatory aspect that has an influence. Then there's the dollar aspect to, okay, do we have a quick turnaround, a quick ROI? What's the ROI? Speaking to the business case and helping building owners, developers understand that there are dollars in sustainable solutions. Sometimes it's a case by case basis to where, okay, are they going to be occupying this building for the next 50, 60 years? So they should be thinking long term. But if it's a developer, someone, I'm just trying to get this sold and turn it around. But there could be an angle that who is your potential client that's going to buy it? It could be a little more attractive, an increase in profit on that sale because of what's built into that building, that space. So that's where my mind goes with this is
Yeah.
how do we help people understand that value and how do we translate that into the dollars? You're a perfect example of it, and I'm sure there's many other out there. But yeah,
Well,
it's such a valuable thing.
I've got one thing comes to mind. I've been chatting with Bill Reed, touching base with him every couple months about integrating what I do with his company Regenesis, and he was one of the guys who authored the LEED standards.
Okay.
And now he leads a company called Regenesis, and he's working on projects in like Chile and Costa Rica and
Yeah.
Iceland and all over the place. And they've created the regenerative development framework. And he said a lot of times their clients will come in and they'll ask, like, can we afford to do this? And his question is like, can you afford not to?
Yeah.
And that's the big
That's good.
question. And he said, 9 times out of 10, doing the regenerative development approach or this more healthy, sustainable approach leads to positive economic outcomes in real projects that have been executed across the course of his career.
Yeah.
And the other one is think about chronic disease. I think the statistics I heard was in like the 1960s, 6% of the American population had some experience with a chronic disease. Now it's like 70%. And
Wow.
so, how much further can we go building unhealthy homes and environments? Like, whenever I see new hospitals getting built, part of me is like, maybe that's good, but is it really good? Because
Yeah.
why do we need so many more hospitals? We
Yeah.
have so many hospitals, and so
Yeah.
many of them are so high tech and
Yeah.
so amazing, and
Yeah.
they work miracles. You break your arm, you come back like
Yeah.
stronger than ever. It's incredible. But the fact that we're building more, with the cancer and all these
Yeah.
diseases is a really good thing. And so
Yeah.
I would look at the health benefit, because if you've got a chronic disease, you could come from my experience, I could barely get anything done
Yeah.
when I was going through all those issues.
Yeah.
Now, energy clarity, I could create so much value in one day. So I would look at it. I would try to quantify it from that perspective. Because if you have a healthy, clear-minded, well-rested,
Yeah.
emotionally, nervous system regulated individual,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
the amount that of value that you can create for whatever that organization or mission is going to be astounding compared to someone that's coming in with headaches,
Yeah.
brain fog, GI distress,
Yeah.
chronic fatigue. And that would be the lens that I would focus on, because I guarantee, like, that even that study from Harvard that I had saw was the investment in ventilation alone, you get 100 times return on your investment.
Mm.
What it costs to
Yeah.
put healthy ventilation in a building and improve the indoor air versus the worker productivity.
Yeah.
And so, what if you tag on a couple other systems and building material approaches?
Yeah.
What do you think could happen?
Yeah. That is a really, really good thought, and hopefully we can make more headway in helping move that into the industry, because it is. It's really important, to understand why is it that we have an increase in need for hospitals. I get the reason there are more sick people, but can we influence it in a different way? And I think this is the answer. This is the answer of healthier environments. Back to the point, we spend 90+% of our time indoors. So why aren't we pushing regulations around making sure that we have healthier residents, healthier commercial environments? It makes sense.
And health is wealth. Ask
It
any
is.
85-year-old billionaire if he'd rather be a strapping, healthy 20-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I would take, 20-year-old healthy body any day and
Yeah.
take another run at it.
Yeah,
And then all
exactly,
the
to
money
do
in
the
the
best.
world, but I can't walk?
Yeah, I know.
Heck no.
Yeah,
I don't know.
so true, so true. So, last question, what is one opportunity you believe Ohio is uniquely positioned to lead in over the next 10 years? We know that AI infrastructure is right up there with all being built here with data centers, but what do you see?
I was just chatting a little bit about a concept with my friend, Brian, before coming over here, and it's that agrohood concept,
Yeah.
where we have so much beautiful green space within a short amount of distance from central Ohio, specifically like the Columbus region. So,
Mm,
setting up whether it's tiny home communities, or we were talking about out in nature, creative work communities, where, say, a corporation could set up this work environment where they could send their teams for 1 or 2 weeks at a time to go work more connected to nature and have
yeah,
brainstorm sessions and mastermind sessions, and like go all in on a project
yeah,
while you're connected to nature, while you're in this healthy environment, a Codex home environment, a Codex office environment, and then community space where people can gather, do some mindfulness practice together, maybe do some other wellness, some yoga, some strength training, whatever that is, get the body all nice and healthy, but do it all in a really healthy environment where you're connected to nature. Put people in that environment for an offsite for, 2 to 3 to 4 weeks at a time, and watch what they create.
yeah,
Watch what they create, and see what kind of innovation they create for your business. See what kind of innovation they create for the community, what kind of value they create, what kind of vitality that returns to their body when they're in that sort of an environment, but they're also creating, because it's not just about retreat. It's like, how do
mhm,
we integrate this into our life? And as that happens, allow those to just percolate and expand. And you can do it really quickly with the Codex tiny homes, because it's minimal site investment, these
yeah,
tiny home communities, and get people around the trees, and get people in that space, and give them an opportunity to create with that energy. Breathing clean air, EMF safe, clean water, restorative environment,
yeah,
and don't see it as something that's separate from your mission for with your business, but allow it to coexist and amplify some of the amazing things that are happening in the city.
yeah,
See, for all the different industries, fashion and tech, and um, all of it.
that's good. That's good. Well, I love this conversation, and certainly I think we could continue and do a part two with all the great nuggets that you've shared here. Um, but yeah, well, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the information that you've shared. Hopefully, the audience will as well. And we will stay in touch to see if we can do maybe a podcast inside of one of the Codex homes, and that would be a great idea, fun idea too, to get the visual for even the audience and just for people to see. Because again, for this podcast, all I'm trying to do for my passion is help a lot of these concepts that seem complex or are just misunderstood, bring more context, educate, provide a little bit more awareness around it. And this is certainly something, especially here in Ohio, my hometown, in a place where you're growing Codex product for being in a healthy environment, living in one, and impacting the health. So health is certainly wealth. Again, thanks for coming on the podcast, and also follow Jeremy and what he's doing with Codex Homes, and learn more about what he's doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Clear Haze Exchange. New episodes drop every 2 weeks. You can catch Clear Haze Exchange on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and more. Let's clear the haze about sustainability and energy efficiency together. Subscribe now and join the conversation.